Greetings, everyone. It's your cartoonist pal Stan here for another episode of Random Encounters, the show where we do improv cartooning. Surprise, surprise, improv cartooning. I don't know exactly what I'm going to be drawing, and neither do you. We're going to use random encounter tables like the kind you find in tabletop role playing games, such as Dungeons and Dragons, and an electronic die rolling app to randomly choose a who and a what, and then I'm going to draw it. And I, of course, invite you to bring your own pencil and paper or electronic drawing uh, device or post it note and marker, whatever you like, and just draw along. You can draw what I'm drawing, you can draw something else that strikes your fancy. You can draw your cat sitting there in front of you, or you can draw me, though I don't highly recommend that. Uh, because drawing is fun, and that's really what this show is all about, the fun of drawing for fun. Hello, Linnea and Dave, and I'm guessing Gus. They're on the couch. Thank you for joining me this evening. We will, as usual, be doing 3 drawings, and let's let's dive right into it. Why not? I mean, we're all here, and I mean, maybe not. I'm here, and that's all we really need. Uh, as Dave and Linnea know, and people who've been here before, please feel free to chat amongst yourselves in the chat or leave questions. I, of course, will be head down a lot. I'll try and keep my eye on what's going on and answer questions or respond in some semi-appropriate way. Anyway, I'm now going to start looking down. I'm doing all of this, just so you know, on an iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil and using the app Procreate. None of this is sponsored. I'm open to it, though. Come on, Apple, Procreate, give me a call. I'm waiting. Uh, and I like these tools, so I use them. I thought I'd tell you what it is I'm using. So let's see. I need to open this here. I know you can't see it, but I've got I've got a prep. Got to be ready to go. All right, now I can reveal. Pull back the curtain, and you can see that this is the set of encounter tables we're going to be using tonight. I haven't explained the bonus board in a while, so I'll take a second there. We've got 6 who's and 6 what's, and we're going to be rolling dice, which means that it may roll the same thing twice, and generally don't want to draw the same thing twice. So I leave it open. That's why I leave it open for you fine folks in the chat, definitely to help. I'll open it up. If you have ideas, shout them out. As Dave and Linnea will tell you, you can tell them if you'd like. I'm open to suggestions, and I will use them when I can. And often, if you give a good suggestion that I can't use, I'll recognize it. And I'll explain why that I don't use what is a good suggestion. It sometimes is about the time it takes or other details. As these kind of things go into revealing kind of what's going on in the head of a cartoonist when they're working on a gag. The bonus board, however, is just things that we can choose. If we get a double, then these are just suggestions. But really, once we hit the bonus board, everything's on the table. Everything's on the table. So warm up your thinking caps. Be ready to jump in with ideas, because I love it when we have audience participation. So, Tape says Stan is open to suggestions. I am open to suggestions. That sounds, like hypnotism. Anyway, here we go. Here is the app, and we're going to roll once, twice, and third time is the number we will take. So we're going to go once, twice, third time, and we got a 6, which is adventurers. Roll a lot of adventurers, which is okay. I keep them on the board all the time because they're almost always appropriate. But what are our adventurers going to be doing? I'll go once, twice, and third time 2. Okay, so let's come back here, and we see on the Who side 6 is adventurer, and 2 is cocoa and cookies. Aww. Adventurers having cocoa and cookies. That is what our first drawing is going to be. So I'm going to turn off the tables. So you can see here on round 1, we've got 3 layers that I'm working on. We're going to start on the sketch layer. And on the sketch layer, I use a studio pen with blue color. I like to do my sketches in blue. And that's a callback to the old days when I was working on physical media, and we used a blue pencil to do our sketches because the camera didn't pick up that color blue. Now, since everything's digital and it drops out, it doesn't really matter. But it helps. When you're drawing digitally, it helps to do your sketching in a different color than you're going to do your final drawing, so you can see the difference. And you can draw over it and notice, still see your sketch below it. All right, so we've got adventurers, cocoa, and cookies. All right, let's see. I'm going to zoom in a little here, get close. We're going to have a table of some sort. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to go. And we're going to have big guys here with a mug, steaming mug. And we will have a halfling or a gnome, not sure here, maybe with an even bigger mug. Just because it can. And I'm just going to put some stripes here to get the idea of a tablecloth of some sort. Now, what are we going to do to get a gag out of this? I think I'm going to have a Zorn. Now, Zorn is a D&D creature we don't talk about a lot because they're kind of rare. They're these weird shaped monstrosities that have eyes on the side. They're kind of like garbage cans of the dungeon. They're got eyes on the side and mouth on top and tentacles, and they just stuff stuff in. I don't know why I thought about doing a Zorn here. The Zorn will have a tray of cookies that it's bringing over to offer to the maybe I may be putting in too much detail here, but there we go. So that's to show that they're inside on a snowy day, having some cocoa. And I'm going to take that, I'm going to make it bigger so it fits more on this larger size. I don't want to draw it so small. Okay. There we go. That's looking good. An infinite bag of cookies. That would be quite the prize. I would like to get that out of a dungeon. All right. So putting little knobbies on there because I think that those are going to represent marshmallows in the cocoa. All right, I think that's good. We'll start with that. Um, Hopefully, you have at least a rough idea of what I'm doing in there. Elemental chocolate. That I think you're coming up. I guess you often do, Dave, with ideas that lend themselves to stories. Like I could see uh, a short 2 or 3 page comic, or maybe just a 1 page comic about, or thinking of it like a Looney Tunes length short cartoon about them coming in and all of these ideas, the cookie golem, the hot chocolate elemental, the bag of infinite cookies, all sound like great gags for that. All of them, though, and that goes back to the same before, hard to sell in a one panel unless there's a joke, unless there's a pun to go with them, unless there's some kind of wordplay that tells you the story of what you're thinking of. Kind of hard to work into a one panel cartoon. All right. So let's start with let's start where we started the drawing. We'll start over here. I want to make sure I'm on the correct layer. I've sometimes been known to do that where I start drawing on the sketch layer, which is well, first of all, it makes it so that I can't erase the sketches when I'm done. Second of all, it means that the blue shines through. You can't get rid of it. I guess maybe that's the same thing. It's just one problem that I'm making into two. All right. So we've got fighter type here. I'm going to put him in a turtleneck sweater. You can start to, another thing to think about, what might be on the mug. What, I was world's best fighter, my grandma loves me, my dungeon master loves me. All right, now here I was thinking about this one being more like a coffee mug shape. And I want that table just so I know where it sits. Now we can come over here to our zone. Well, let's start with the tray. Now, sometimes when you're drawing, you want to, well, I guess whenever you're drawing, you want to stop every once in a while and think about what are you going to draw next. I always say you start with lines that you're most confident in, And then you want to build the drawing up. So if there's a detail here that you would, my first inclination was to go and draw the Zorn next, go from character to character to character. But the placement of this cookie tray is important, and how I draw the Zorn is going to affect where it's easy for me to put the finished lines in. So it's smarter for me to draw the tray first and then make the Zorn's tentacles work around that. Likewise, this teapot is the next most important thing because I want it to yeah, let's say the same for the same reason. The Zorn's tentacles can move to accommodate it. If I put the Zorn's tentacles in a strange place, then it's going to be harder to draw the teapot. Go again. Let's say maybe you want to look up Zorn. Since you're there at home, you can get onto Google or one of the other web searches. It's XORN is how you spell Zorn, in case you don't know. And there we go. And now we can start putting in some of these tentacles. That. We'll have this one come up here. Again, see, I'm going past where I put that original line because I see where I need it to be. If I hadn't put the cookie tray there, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Come in here and add the Zorn tentacle. Again, if the cookie tray had not been there, I wouldn't have known to make that work just that way. Alright. I'm getting a little in the weeds here. I don't want to get too wrapped up in this. The idea, of course, on the whole show is to do these drawings quickly. And while that sometimes sometimes it's annoying to me because I really like the drawing we're coming up with, and I want to make it as good as I can be, as it can be. But that also means that when we're done, if I really like a drawing, I might go back and do it again in a more completed format. All right, so we're getting pretty close to having everything we really need here. I'll put the background lines in, background details in a little bit. I just wanted something to fill out the kitchen. Make sure that it seems like they're in a cozy situation, not in some, not in the dungeon in danger. No danger in the dungeon. Coco in the kitchen. Now, the thing I haven't done here is that steam coming off the cocoa mugs. So I'm thinking about whether or not I want to do that in this solid black line, or put it in when I'm doing color as a gray, kind of a less less solid line than the lines for doing the characters in. All right, and in fact, you know what? I'm going to do something I don't usually do. Probably take up a uh, little extra time, but maybe it'll be worth it. So we got here. I'm going to turn off the sketch layer for a second so we can look and see what we've got. You see, looks a little broken up, but that's because I'm going to add some stuff in when we do the color. So I'm going to put the sketch back on, which I don't usually do. And in fact, I'm going to add a second layer here above colors, between the colors and the lines. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pick another color. I'm going to pick a bluish gray color. I'm going to use that to draw in the steam coming off the pots. I'm also going to use it to draw the snowman. Who is outside the window. Doing this is one of the things you can do when you're drawing on your own to get the idea that something is in the distance or not part of the main drawing, is to draw it in a color, put your lines in a lighter color than the main lines you're using on the drawing. So now if I turn off the sketch layer, you can see again that the steam seems more see-through, and that snowman in the background seems farther away because he's not drawn in black. All right, so I like that. That's looking pretty good. So now we'll come in and we'll add some quick colors and wrap this one up. So we're going to, oh, I know what I wanted to do. I wanted to come back here and put some decorations on the pot. There we go. All right, so now we go to the colors layer. Wow, I don't know why I'm spending all this time doing these fancy things, but I am, because it's fun. That's the answer, because it's fun. That's what the whole thing is all about. Why ask why? You enjoying it? Do it. Make it happen. So I've switched to a gloaming brush, the name of this brush in Procreate, and it allows me to, right, I'm on the gloaming? No, there I am, on the gloaming brush. And it allows me to create do this coloring that has a crayon-y, marker-y feeling to it. Which also allows me to do the coloring in this semi-complete way that feels like you might get using a coloring book. Okay, let's get in here and add some color. I think we'll give this guy a green sweater. that. If you guys thought of anything you think might go good on the mugs? Any kind of saying or phrase or half drawn image, something that's not too complicated, but we can certainly fit something on there. Or it doesn't have to. I mean, we can also have nothing on there and just have them be regular old mugs. And I'm going to use a light, I guess it's a blue very similar to the one I used for the snowman lines. But if I put it here on the tray, it's going to give it a silvery feel. Look at those yummy cookies. Oh, they look good. Come back and use a blue, which is similar to the sketch blue I used for the pot. Everyone's got crockery with this kind of decoration on it, don't you? Don't we all? I think the tablecloth is going to be a base of yellow. Like that, and then I'm going to grab a red and come in and put those lines back in quickly. Maybe just kind of play with some grays here for the background so we don't get too deep into trying to color the whole thing. Let's see here, I've got a selection of grays in my toolkit here for when I'm doing a piece that's mostly gray. I think I'm going to switch back to my inking brush and go back to that line I used for the snowman and the steam and use that to create an idea of just like a linoleum floor. And if I add that there, I think we're pretty well done with this one. Mini Marshalls with prestidigitation. Good idea. maybe we should get you some magic training there, Mr. Lemon. All right. Okay, there we go. I'm going to call this good. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to switch to my inking brush, go back to a black line, and my line slayer. And we'll put a little stand at the bottom to say we're done. And say, there we go. We've got adventurers having cocoa and cookies. How nice and warm and fun on a wintry day. How are things out where you guys are? We had an actual cold week. Now, I live in the greater Seattle area, and we'll often complain about it being cold because it's colder than usual. But having lived in places like upstate New York and Wisconsin, I've lived places that are really cold. And I'll tell you, the weather this week here was pretty close to really cold. It didn't get out of the 20s Fahrenheit, for those of you who are watching in other parts of the world. It didn't get out of the 20s for 3 or 4 days and dropped down into the teens. And that's just cold. I mean, yes, it's colder other places, but I don't think there's any denying that having your top temperature be 22 degrees for the day, that's a cold day no matter where you live. So yeah, it's nice. The temperature's starting to come up. It's still rainy and not very nice outside, but it's certainly better now that the temperature's above freezing. Anyway, there we go. There's our first drawing. That is adventurers having cocoa and cookies. So I will come back here. I'll close that up and turn it off. I'm going to open up round 2 and get that ready. And then we'll turn back on the tables. And it's time to move on to round 2. So I'm going to go back to the die rolling app and see what we get for our next Who and What. You know what? First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pause. Wet my whistle because I don't have cocoa and cookies. Just a little diet soda. All right. Here we go. Time to roll it again. So once, twice, third time. And we got a 5 for our Who. 5 for our Who. And our What is once, twice, third time. 1. A 1 for our What. So what does that give us here? That gives us an Axebeak. And on the red carpet. So that's a weird combination. So it's starting to be a award show season, and there's a lot more red carpet events happening in the news these days. So I decided to put the red carpet on the encounter possibility. An Axebeak, for those of you who don't know, is a D&D creature that's kind of like a big, it's ostrich-like, except it has its beak is big and kind of axe-shaped, and it can attack with it. Dave says Gus left Coco in the car overnight, and it froze into a fudgesicle. That would have happened here. I posted on my Facebook about the fact that I had left some bottles of diet soda, some 2-liter bottles, which if anyone has lived anywhere, unless it gets very cold, those things don't freeze up, particularly if they're inside, like inside a car. It takes a lot for them to freeze, and one of the bottles froze solid. So that's, and again, talks about how cold it is here. But yeah, if you leave a cup of cocoa in the car overnight, I mean, I suppose a fudgesicle is nice too, just not exactly what you want to eat when you go outside and the temperature's freezing. Anyway, so we've got an Axebeak on the red carpet. Okay. That's what we're going to do. We're going to turn off that. We'll come back, switch on the blue. We've got our inking pen. And so just to, again, to clue you in, so an Axebeak is a big two-legged bird with a on that, and its head will have a big axe-like shape, and it can attack. It can and does attack. They're not very nice birds. I'm not sure what our Axebeak is going to be doing on the red carpet. I'm not sure what what kind of show or award it's up for, but I may keep that guy. I kind of like it. Let's see. Let's just kind of look. So we've got a red carpet situation. Maybe the Axebeak's just going berserk. Chasing the reporters around. Or maybe the Axebeak's, the reporter's just looking nervously is trying to get the Axebeak to make a comment on the red carpet. Maybe we'll give the Axebeak sunglasses and pearls so we see that it's a fancy schmancy Axebeak. I don't know. Anyone have any thoughts here of what might be the way to go? Any ideas? Any thoughts on the matter? Or are you just going to leave it up to me? I'm leaning towards the pandemonium on the red carpet myself. I guess I'm going to erase this guy that we had first drew by way of explanation. No, no, no. All right, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to erase both of these. And I'm going to come back to my tiny little thumbnail. See, this is the way. It's the way that I work, and a lot of cartoonists I know work. You sit down when you're coming up with ideas, whether it's digitally or in a notebook or on a piece of scrap paper, and just scribble out small drawings of ideas and see which one. Play around with different ideas. What about this? What about that? What about this over here? And you find the ones that strike you as amusing, and then you say, okay, well then I'll take that and I'll do it bigger. Now, working digitally makes it even easier because I can grab this tiny little thing and blow it up like that and move it around. So here right now, these are not filling up the square as well as I want. So I could just put one over there and take the second one over here, make this a little bigger so it's maybe not that big. There we go. And we've got a red carpet coming through there like that. more people looking terrified. Like that there. Looking good. Dave says he was researching real life Axebeaks. Out of curiosity, are there real life Axebeaks? Is there something in the world that really is an Axebeak? And certainly there are things that are similar. I mean, this idea didn't come out of nowhere, but never heard of anything actually having a huge beak like that. Certainly, ostriches and emus and other large birds like that can be very aggressive. All right, so that's enough sketching. Again, I can see what I want here. You probably can see a rough idea. I bet I see a little more detail than you do in these lines, but it's enough to get going. Let's do some drawings. We can go to the lines layer, and I'm going to start with a line that I'm confident in, which is the mouth on this Axebeak. I don't know why he's not happy, but I know that he's not happy. Now, I'm deciding that I'm going to break up the Axebeak's neck and body with these areas where I'm closing out the feathers. And the idea there in my head is that that's going to allow me to say that this area is red and that area is blue, for example, and add some different colorations in. Kind of like you might see on some tropical birds. So we're gonna. They're flightless birds, but they certainly still have wings. That I'm imagining they'd flap about as they're going crazy, running rampant on the red carpet. And here we've got our reporter. We're going to make an elf. Why? Just because it's always fun to terrorize an elf. Also, it's easier for me to imagine that an elf just was snooty and offensive and deserves whatever the Axebeak is about to give him. Maybe I have a worse opinion of elves than you do. See, Dave says the Axebeaks were long ago. They were long extinct. Basically 10-foot tall predator ostriches of death. All right, yeah. Well, that certainly sounds like what D&D reinvented them as. So, yeah, real world Axebeaks. See, who knew you came to random encounters to learn something? I always learn something from you guys. All right, so there's a reporter there. There's another guy. Surprised at the mayhem that's happening. I'm gonna put this line here to remind myself that I've got to fit the red carpet in. And we're going to come back here to the other Axebeak. Again, starting with the beak itself, I think, is the easiest way for me to get an idea of what the head shape needs to be. This guy, I don't know if you could see this. My idea here is that this guy has knocked the reporter up into the air. Like so. One more over here. He said. Gotta get the eyes so they're looking at the Axebeak. When you're drawing those kind of beads of sweat to show that someone's um, angry or excited or scared, there are lots of reasons why you see these in comics all the time. Here I'm going to do a little drawing on the side to explain what I'm talking about. But when you're doing those, you'd think you put them over here or wherever, but if you put them at these angles, they don't really tell much of a story. You want to put them so that they're coming out of, if you were to draw a straight line through them, they come back to the point that's important. So if someone's seeing something that's scaring them, you want the sweat bullets to kind of come back to the eyes, like that. If this person had something yucky in their mouth that was making them do that, you'd probably want to do it so the sweat bullets came back to the mouth. See, that is, I just say that by way of explaining why I put sweat bullets on and then immediately erase them. It's because the sweat bullets I put here didn't fit that right. Oh, hey, Happy Wolf. Glad you could make it. What do we got here? Glad to catch a live stream. Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. Thank you, man. Thank you for joining us. I've been watching some sumo. Sumo, my other live streams. Sumo show. There's a tournament going on right now in Japan, and that means that my my other show, the sumo show, is going twice weekly, Tuesday and Friday nights, as we talk about what's going on in the most recent matches. So yeah, you may want to look for us tomorrow night, Happy Wolf, 7 p.m. Pacific time. My co-host Troy and I will be on live talking about days 4, 5, and 6 of the current sumo tournament. But tonight is not a sumo night. Tonight is random encounters. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the sketch layer here, and we can see what we have. Looking pretty good. I want to erase a couple of little things and add 1 or 2 extra lines in here to clarify things up. But for the most part, this is looking pretty good. All right. Liking it. I'm liking it. We are going to now go to the colors layer, get off that lines layer. In fact, I'm going to lock the lines layer because I'm afraid I'm going to go back and draw there. I don't know why I have that fear right now, but I do. Go back to our gloaming brush and start throwing in some colors. Use an orange for the beaks. I can remember when we're doing this gloaming, or if you're coloring with markers or crayons, you can think about, rather than trying to fill all of the space within lines, just think about break each thing down into shapes. Let me show that again while I'm saying this. Like this leg, we've got a shape here and a shape here, and if you color roughly within those shapes, you can leave extra room in there. You don't have to fill them out, and it still gives an idea that you are adding texture and depth. That's you're fooling your viewer's eye into thinking that there's more texture and depth, and it makes your coloring just look better. And it's a funny thing, right? You are not filling in all the lines. You're sometimes not even staying within the lines. You're going outside a little bit. But because of the way that it makes your brain think what it's seeing, it makes the whole thing just seem more complete. All right, let's see. I'm going to pick a blue. It's going to be a darker blue than we've used before here for the crest of our Axebeak. And I think I'm going to use a red for the next strap down. Let's do the same thing on the other Axebeak. So their coloring is the same. Now, actually, your Axebeaks don't have to have the same color. You could have different colors. I'm going to have the wings be red too. Here again, I'm going to use that shape idea. So there's not a lot of detail in this wing, but if I do this, by breaking it out into these shapes, it gives the idea, gives the brain the thought that this is more detailed than it really is. There we go. And then, I don't think I really want a yellow. Maybe a green? Yeah, that looks good. I'm doing the same thing with this body, breaking it into different shapes. And doing coloring to fill those shapes roughly, individually. It creates that feeling of more depth. All right, and now we can quickly give our reporters some clothing. One of the things I do, I think I've talked about this before, is and I know I've talked about it in terms of armor. I'm doing a character, and I want them. I'm trying to. I don't have a lot of time to spend on figuring out what color all their clothing should be. If I take one variation as I'm doing this digitally, one color, one basic color, and then create 3 or 4 different variations of it and put them together, it looks like a whole designed, color coordinated outfit. When in fact, I just took one color and made variations on it. He doesn't need a lot of different colors, just a shirt. This guy up here, we'll give him brown hair. And again, so take that color, take a darker version of it and make it the pants. Take an even darker version of it and make it the shoes. And suddenly, that tiny little character has a coordinated outfit. See these tricks you're learning? Good stuff, I tell you. There we go. And then the last thing I want to do is come in, and we need a nice red for our red carpet. Maybe that's why I didn't want those wings to be red. Hadn't thought of that. I should have thought of that sooner. me look at this and decide. I may need to go in and change those wing colors. Because right now it's too close to the carpet. So I'm going to go in and make it a different red. Just so that it doesn't distract from our red carpet red. And there's another little coloring lesson. You can use the same color for multiple things, but it can't be confusing. You can't have it so that when the viewer's eye looks at it, they can't tell a difference between the red on the wings and the red on the carpet. There we go. I'm also going to come in here. I often talk about adding a little shadow just to make things look a little darker. The large bodies on these things make it make the large space stand out as just a flat color. But if I add that, weirdly, without adding in a lot of other shading, by adding it on those big turkey bodies, it helped the entire image. All right, I'm looking at all this, and I have, as I often do, made my colors very, very strong, stronger than maybe they ought to be. So I'm going to drop the opacity by about 10%. I think that's going to help how this whole thing looks. Make the lines pop out a little more. Okay, there we have it. I will come back to my inking and my lines layer. I'll unlock that so that I can add my stand. Help if I grab the color I want. And we have here Axebeaks on the red carpet. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba, yeah. Awesome. So I'm going to take another pause here. See what's going on here in the chat. Let's see. Linnea says, 10-foot tall predator ostriches. The last thing I saw Dave said. And then he said, the elf must have a set of his flash he must have, probably set off his flash at the Axebeak. Probably. He did something to piss it off. Linnea then says, wait, is that a dodo? I guess they're kind of dodo. Yeah, I can see that. Dodos are much more weebly, big bodies, and toucan-like beaks. These beaks are probably more more axe-like, more weapon-like than a dodo's beak, from everything I've ever seen. But yeah, no, I see it. He says, I heard they discovered that dodo is still around. Everyone just thought they were super ugly chickens. I saw something about the dodo. I saw a headline. I didn't read the story. Is that what it is? That they think that there are dodos around? That's funny, because, I mean, from what I've seen, when I've seen dodos in, like, natural history museums, I've seen stuffed and mounted dodos. Seems like it would be hard to mistake them for a really ugly chicken. So it must be if it's there, again, what am I, a scientist? I don't know. But my logical head guess is it must be a relative of the dodo. But who knows? Maybe it is. And all those ones that are stuffed and mounted are just abnormally giant dodos. They call that family of critters, says Dave, terror birds. I don't blame them. Forus Heracide died out about 100,000 years ago. Just missed him. Happy Wolf says he'll try to make it. Yeah, if you can make it to the sumo, great. If not, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Stop by, just as an aside, over on Facebook. There's a group for the show. It's called The Sumo Show. And if you go on Facebook and just search for The Sumo Show, you'll be pointed to our group, and where have all kinds of conversations, and sumo fans can gather. The Axebeaks are upset because their gift bags didn't have designer cosmetic case. What they didn't have was beak shadow, something to de-emphasize the beak. Lene says, "I don't know. You want me to back up my plan?" No, I don't. You're starting a conversation. I don't know either. We're both blathering. You've got access to possible facts, but I don't demand anything. I don't demand anything. You say what you want. I'll say what I want, and we'll all get along. That's just the wrong emotion for that. I played that scene totally wrong. Oh well, keep rolling. Okay, so we finished with our second drawing here. We had the Axebeaks on the red carpet. Let's do one more, and then we'll call it an evening. So come back to the random encounter tables. I'm going to pull up the dice and roll the dice one more time, or two more times. Let's see, we got once, twice, third time, and it's a 1 for our who, and once, twice, third time. 2, did we already? 2 was cocoa and cookies, I think. So we've got to find a replacement, I think, for our what. Let's go back and look. 1 is a roper. Wow, the ice are well. I picked Zorn for no reason in the first one, and the dice have picked Axebeak and a roper, are two weird creatures. A roper is similar to a Zorn in that it's got tentacles. The roper is like it looks in a dungeon, in a cave. It looks like a stalagmite or a stalactite. It looks like an outcropping of rock, but in fact, it's a living monster that will reach out and grab adventurers and try to eat them. Crazy things happen in D&D. And they says, "I want beak shadow." All the influencers will have them. Oh yeah, well, if I can market that, maybe that's my $1 million idea. All right, but cocoa and cookies is definitely been used already. So we need something for our roper to be doing. Now we can grab one of the others here. Roper at the gym or playing poker. We can grab something off the bonus board or make up something new entirely, which I'm always in favor of. So let me start by coming over here and turning on round 3, going to the sketch layer, and turning off the tables. And we'll start by, for those of you who don't know, I know that Dave knows. But for those of you who don't know, a roper, as I said, is like a stalagmite, or possibly stalactite. Looks like an outcropping of rock, but it's usually got one big eye and a big mouth, and then tentacles that reach out to grab unwary adventurers and pull them back and eat them. Now, of course, for this drawing, we don't have it exactly be in that situation, but that's the creature that we're doing something with. What is a roper? What can we have a roper doing? A roper on a red carpet would be a little strange because they're not that mobile. We've already done red carpet too. But what? What can our roper be doing? I'm going to Place this here. I'll leave him there just for inspirational purposes. Probably redraw him as we figure it out. What can a roper be doing? We could have a roper shoveling snow, right? Just kind of throwing snow back. He wouldn't move very fast, but he's made of rock. He wouldn't really care much about the cold. There's a cover. Yes, there is. There's a roper on the cover of the first edition D&D Monsters Manual. If you all out there remember a book from 1979, 1980. I also did there's a roper illustration from inside the player's handbook, the very first player's handbook, I think, is where it came from. Roper throwing snowballs. I like the idea of going with the snowball, so we could have the roper here with his tentacles throwing lots of snowballs at some little kids who are getting pelted and trying to duck down behind a thing. And our roper, of course, would have snow on him or her or it. I like that. There we go. Did I have Snowball fight as one of the choices on the table? Let me just look. Yeah, 6 was a Snowball fight. All right. Want to do a Roper Snowball fight? Let's do a Roper Snowball fight. I will, again, come back here and erase these other Ropers. We've got a very loose thumbnail drawing down there that I can enlarge, as I was talking about before. All right, just getting ideas. Just do a quick little drawing and then grab it and make it bigger. Let's see, I think I want to move things around a little so that this drawing isn't quite so small on the page. I don't know. I could grab the roper and just make him bigger, so it's not a long distance snowball fight. And then I could even grab the kids over here and make them a little bigger. And easier to draw. There we go. That's a good one. I like that. Good thinking, Dave. And in fact, I think that we've got most of what we need sketch-wise already on this. But want to throw a few more tentacles off the roper. And I think I just want to add a little more detail for our kids. There we go. I like it. So we'll come to the line slayer. Again, when I'm drawing more, more polished version, I would do a more finished sketch and have a better idea for sure of what I would be drawing. Exactly where things are and they balance. But for this quick, we're doing here, the idea of doing it quick is paramount. So I want to put the minimum down and leave the rest open to interpretation. And it's fun, right? Again, things being fun. Like if you're doodling, you don't do a lot of sketching. Just kind of draw what you've got, and if it's a little wrong, you fix it. And if it's you come up with some idea that you'd never thought of before, you say, "Thank you, brain," and move along. And that's actually one of those things that a lot of people just stop doing as they get older is just that kind of fun doodling with no real purpose that lets the crazy ideas come out of nowhere. You, you, you don't know what you're going to get, and then until it's there, and then you interpret it and make it into something else. Let's say that's a lot of fun, and it's an important part of uh, doing cartooning like I do professionally. You've got to. That's how people ask, "How do you come up with ideas? Where do your ideas come from?" It's this. This is really the secret. Is just putting stuff out there, drawing stuff, and trying things, and finding stuff that doesn't work, and then seeing something that you hadn't thought of come out of there, and then suddenly you are thinking about it specifically, and you're coming up with ideas that develop it. That's where ideas come from. Wow, who knew I was going to solve that particular question right here live on the air for everyone? If there's a question that I and just about every other creative, uh, well, cartoonist or other creative artist, uh, writers too, get most often when we um, do seminars or live appearances or conventions, the question that comes up most often is where do you get your ideas? Where do your ideas come from? And we've all got our answers to those um, that are more or less satisfying, but I think this is the most truthful one that I've ever come up with to say it. I think I'm going to be remembering this for the future when I have the situation to talk about it. This is the answer of where ideas come from. All right, so we've got a roper, as you can see, looks like a big pile of rock with tentacles. And over here, we've got a kid throwing a snowball. Hiding behind a snowdrift of sorts. And another one right next to him. So I want to give it one eye open and the other getting hit. You want, if you're drawing this, you want the closed eye to be the one that's on the side that's getting hit. have it knocking his hat off too. Got a deformed Snowball coming here. Splat! And this kid has thrown a snowball. I'm going to have another one coming in this way. Now, you're going to draw snowballs when they're moving. You know, if you're going to draw a snowball, you're mostly going to make it round. But once it's moving, you want it to be a little oblong to show the speed that it's moving at. And then you can draw a couple of more pieces behind to show that it's in motion. So this one up here, there we go, zoom in there. This one over here is going to have a roughly round snowball because it hasn't been thrown yet. Let's see, maybe we want to show another splat of snow here to show that our kids have hit the snowman, or they hit the roper. And he doesn't mind because it's all fun and games. He's made out of stone anyway, doesn't really bother him. I turn off the sketch layer. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Just adding a few extra lines in, and then we can go and make some color on it, and we'll have a roper having a snowball fight. So come to the colors layer. Again, I'm going to lock that lines layer so I don't color on it. And I'm going to use a rocky brown shade here for the roper. You can see how I'm finding shapes within the larger roper and coloring them as if they were distinct shapes of their own to help create the illusion that there's more detail here. That, I think I'm going to give our roper a... Monsters always have strange colored eyes, just to make them seem inhuman. Um, all right, I was about to do something, but I'm gonna pause and save that for a little bit. We'll come over here to our kids. Kids never have a snowball fight with a roper. They've got too many arms, and and they just don't care anyway. They can throw more than you can, and you can't hurt them. Make these kids' hats and mittens match. And most people don't do that, but sometimes you do. And again, it's that um, ability to very quickly give something uh, proper shading. Mix up versions of the same color. There we go. That's looking good. Now, what I was going to talk about is, well, when we do our shading, let's start with a little shading to, again, help to just get some of everywhere it looks like there might be a shadow. Just put a little darker version of the color you've already used. Don't worry about real specific details. Don't add too much of it. Just a little here and a little there. And it'll give that feeling that you've done more than you have. He'll just help your viewer's eyes, or your viewer's eyes will help you out and see more detail than you actually put in there. So grab anywhere you want to do that, grab the color, get a version that's a little darker, and put it on there, and that helps out. If you're using a crayon or a marker, a way to do that is just to use the marker that you were using and press a little harder. There we go. Now, with things that are white, like the snow, we talked about this before, but you can change what someone sees just by what color you decide to use for the shading. Now, in this case, I'm using a light blue, which makes it feel very clean white, a very clean white. But let's say for the snow that's on the ground, if I want to show a little difference, I'll grab a different blue and we'll use that. Oops. And I think you'll see that it feels like the ground is a different color than the snowballs. In fact, it would actually help if I did this on the snow fort. So snowballs will be very pure white. And the snow fort and the snow on the ground is just a little dirtier. Now, we know that most of the maybe we should do it up here on the snow that's on the roper too, right? We know that it's 90% white. Like it's all white. We've just added a little touch here and there. But your eye then reads the entire space as if the shadow's a different color, the material must be a different color. So it it looks like it's a dirtier white. Like this white right here is somehow dirtier than this white right here. It's not. It's all the same. But your eye says that it is. And again, these are little tricks to help you in your drawings to impress people. Look at what you've done and said, "Wow, how did you get that? How did you make that happen?" And the answer really is, I didn't. You did. Your brain did. But I'll take the credit. There we go. All right, I'm gonna put my little stand on there, and just like that, we've got ourselves a fine drawing of a roper having a snowball fight. Ta-da! So let me get a little drink, and we'll wrap it up for the evening. All right. Well, it's been a fun evening of random encounters. We've had a roper having a snowball fight. Before that, we had Axebeaks on the red carpet, going crazy on the red carpet, and we started off with adventurers having cocoa and cookies. So all in all, a pretty fun wintry edition of Random Encounters. I want to thank everyone who's joined me, Dave and Linnea, and Happy Wolf Art for being here. I know we've had some other people in the viewing. I've seen some other names and numbers pop up, and you know, I'm not saying that you had to talk. I'm happy you were here. I want to recognize you. You're always welcome to join the chat anytime you like. For those of you who are watching on replay, I appreciate that. I hope some week you can come and join us live on a Thursday night, be part of the audience, throw your ideas in the mix. Maybe I'll draw the idea that you have. Dave came up with a bunch of good ones tonight, as he often does. And that's what we wound up drawing. So I'm going to pop here where it's just me again. Once again, I am your cartoonist pal Stan. If you want to see more of my stuff, the great place to go is my Instagram account. Anything that I draw and show publicly will wind up being shown in that Instagram account. So it's a good place to follow up. It's stannex.com, STANN, or Stannex, STANNEX is the username. That's also my username on Facebook. That's also my username on what used to be called Twitter. I don't go there very much anymore. Sorry. Blame Elon. But whenever possible, that winds up being my username on Blue Sky too. So now you know. If you are enjoying this so much that you want to get more than the average person can possibly get, then you may want to consider coming over and joining my Patreon. Patreon now has a free level, so you can come in and join that. I'll be quite honest. There's not a lot that happens on the free level of my Patreon, but you'll get to see what other things are going on and decide if you want to join in there. You get stickers at some levels of the Patreon backing. Dave shouts out stickers. I know that I've sent some stickers to their home. And I send holiday cards and other fun stuff, behind the scenes peeks at what I'm doing. I give write ups about my process and what I'm thinking, things like that. It's a lot of fun, and gives you access to me. What more could you ask? If you are looking around this month, I'm doing a lot of caricature drawing. There's a challenge that the International Society of Caricature Artists do every January called Caricature Resolution. And we're now more than halfway through that. It's a caricature a day through the month of January. I've done 16 so far with today's 8. No, I've done 17 so far. I haven't done today's yet. But after I wrap up here and grab a little dinner, I'll be drawing today's caricature, and I'll post that over onto my Instagram. So go and see what celebrity I'm drawing today. As Happy Wolf had us talking about a little earlier, I also do a live stream podcast about the Japanese Grand Sumo. I know that seems a little weird, but it's something I've been a big fan of ever since I lived in Japan back in the 1990s. And we talk about what's going on in the sport, particularly like now when there is a tournament going on. So wherever you're watching this, you can probably also watch the sumo show. Have a look if that sounds interesting to you. If not, if you just want to stick around for the cartooning, that's fine too. In whatever case, whatever you want, I'll be there. Just not right now, because I've got to wrap it up and go get me some dinner. So I want to thank everyone again for showing up and being here. It's been a lot of fun. I will be back next week at this same time for another episode of Random Encounters. And until then, take care, my friends. Bye.